Greetings, peoples of the interwebs. There's a ton of people waiting for me to be live. I apologize for the brief delay. I forgot where the option was in YouTube. Yeah, it's one of those days. Anyways, all right, let me minimize myself because I don't want to stare at myself. Actually, one more quick look here to make sure I've actually got this thing framed right. Because last time I was cutting off like the top of my head. There we go. Hey, let's give that a try. Nice view of the Starship Enterprise back there, and close personal friend Hugh Jackman back there. I don't like to name drop too much, but all right, enough foolishness. You didn't come here for my shenanigans. You came here for poetry, and once again, I'll do my best to satisfy that urge. I guess we'll call it. Anyways, all right. So thank you for tuning in. If anyone is indeed out there, and I appreciate it. And if you're watching this later on, welcome. Thank you. It'd be great if you subscribed and caught these. I'm trying to do this a little bit more. Let me explain just briefly because a couple of these poems are really short, so we might even be below the time that we were last time. Basically, I want to do this because this is not my comfort zone. Reading poetry is not my thing. Writing poetry, fine. Actually, reading it aloud is not necessarily my comfort area. And so I'm doing this to step out of my comfort zone because I don't know. I found that good things happen when I do that in my life. So I'm trying to nudge myself out. And also, it's interesting because I kind of find out new things about stuff that I wrote, which is always an interesting thing to be kind of an archaeologist in your own life and your own art, whatever. I feel iffy about describing what I do as art. I don't know why. Residual guilt and self-loathing, I guess, probably a topic for another time and a therapist couch, probably. Anyways, let's do some poetry. So this first one is called "On Loan." I have but one life, and it's not even mine. Pouring water from one cup to another, using it the best I can on borrowed time. We are stamped like library books with a date unreadable, bound to come due at some future date and time. All of us on loan to eternity, waiting for the same dark shadow, hoping to face it with grin, not grimace, when the note is called in. And now, because I managed to see, I try to be more organized in this, but now I've managed to somehow bury, there we go. If I had paper, this wouldn't be an issue, but I'm trying to do this on my screen, which always makes things interesting because then things just disappear for whatever reason. Pardon me. All right, this one is called "It's a Process," or "It's a Process," depending on how you prefer to say the Queen's English. It's a process. For the bluebird sitting on the bough, for the cat waiting patiently in the grass, for the junkie chasing the high, for the preacher seeking the divine, for the grape on the vine, for the star dead now for centuries, for the light and the good, for the misunderstood, for us all, for us none, for much, for little, for no thing, for everything. All right. Just make sure no one is throwing me shade in the chat. Actually, feel free to do that if you'd like. It'll be entertaining. Anyways, let's see here. I'm hoping this is a little more uplifting than the last session. My wife was wondering why I didn't have any happy poems. Didn't know how to tell her that, even though I'm a fairly happy person, apparently happy poems are not my thing. All right, this one is called "Always Deal to Your Right." The golden rule in artistic endeavors is to never repeat yourself. Of course, the sun rises and sets each day. Governments always want more taxes. People want more of your time, and some will even want more of your soul. Always more and more and more, until it's all repetition, paving a pathway to hell. The moon is hiding tonight as it hurtles through its cycle, same as ever before, while the earth creaks on its ancient orbit, same as ever before. The universe overlaps itself one more time, same as it ever before. But I'm supposed to come up with something new? All right. And now we get to something really interesting because this is a poem that I wrote. I don't even know how long ago. I think this poem's got to be at least 20 some odd years old, at least, if not, it might be about 24 years old, which is interesting that I have poems now that are old enough to vote. It's kind of odd to think about, quite honestly. But this is a poem that is actually in my book. Here, let me shill for you. In my book, which actually your copy, if you buy one, won't look like this because I redid the cover, and I like it a lot more than this. But this is the OG cover that I published back in 2008. Yes, folks, back before social media kind of took over all our lives. No, there was social media then, I think. I don't know. I can't remember what happened yesterday sometimes. However, this poem is called Wise Man of the Traffic Jam. And I actually did not read this one when I was preparing because I got lazy, quite honestly. So this could be very interesting. But chances are you haven't read it anyway, so just pretend it's all part of the show. Wise man of the traffic jam. Blank stares surround me, stuck in traffic at 5 p.m. Whirlwinds of red brake lights buzz through the exhaust as radioactive hornets, wishing I smoked just for something to do. My Zippo securely buried in my pocket, begging as my temper does for some reason to ignite. Because these concrete paths are perfect for walking, which is what I want. Light a cigarette and walk away down these slim automobile alleyways to parts unknown in modern times. Traversing the smooth terrain between commuters, cigarette on a lip, smoke filling my lungs, sky filling eyes. To hell with cancer. We're all going to die soon enough if the corporations have their way. Besides, what's one pack going to hurt? That one perfect moment of freedom is all I ask. Sitting 2 or 3 feet above the car roofs in this mean-spirited diesel, high above the lovers, the workers, and sinners, high above but not high enough. It's just a matter of torque and horsepower to move these others aside and push the diesel forward through, but I enjoy this perch among the sheet metal, high on my mountain like the wise man of the traffic jam. Click, 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 snapping the Zippo lid, open, shut, open, shut. Minutes pass, seconds into the breakdown lane, wishing there was a chrome-plated cigarette here to match my lighter, to match the drag race sunset. Yeah, to match the drag race sunset of winter through the smog. The car in front inches forward more and more, an ant nudging its way along toward home, and I smile. Because there's nowhere for me to go, and I know 1 inch doesn't buy much these days. The diesel remains still, and I return to daydreams of unfiltered camels and iron lungs. Looking at the sky, you'd never guess it was Monday. Silky, sulky, purple-blue monsters sucking up the remaining shards of sunset, and soon it will be all gone, repackaged and rebranded as evening to commercials, if commercials are to be believed. Nowhere to go but places to be, just as these ants. Somewhere to park my mortal coil. They believe in places like somewhere, and I don't blame them. Back home to a wife, husband, child, dog, etc. My bed awaits nothing. Empty as my pocket. Refrigerator full of ketchup and 2 cans of beer, but it's a place to be. Which is why I suppose myself the wise man of the traffic jam. Not superiority. I just figured it out a little sooner than them. We all learn sooner or later. Take this one, for instance, fuming on a cell phone, bellowing and steaming and fussing at some unseen ant just that much further down the food chain than him. Just that much closer to the ground, just that much closer to destitute, and he's... Wait, what's that? Is it? There's this wonderful pop to a truck door when it opens that first inch, and I savor the first gust of night mixed with diesel fumes, swing the door wide and descend the mountain, finding myself among the ants on the blacktop. Move around to the driver's side of a standard issue sedan. Tap, tap, tap on the ant's window. And like a goldfish, he turns with open eyes and mouth, imagining that the entire world didn't see him there inside his little bowl. The window shatters in a silence of mufflers and V6 engines, letting in the fumes, the noise, and the darkness into his precious sanctuary. Reaching past the shocked glare, past the jagged, fierce teeth of glass, past the dull air and talk radio that fills his world, I retrieve half a pack of Camels. Throwing $5 into his lap, I calmly turn and walk away between the cars, guardrails, and highway signs. Click open the Zippo, watch the flame leap into life, and then snap it closed along with the first drag. Behind me, more doors open in protest from the ants compete with the idling engines. Walking away from my mountain, I decide to take the long way home tonight. And for the record, I'm not even a smoker. As if any of you might really care, but I just figured I'd throw that in there. Add that to my Wikipedia entry when you decide to throw one up for me, and add a lot of interesting stuff too, if you can, please. All righty. And now we come to the cover poem. I don't again I don't know if that's a thing, but I'm going to make it a thing. Much as when a band plays somebody else's music, I figure I might as well try and read somebody else's poems. And so this one is called First Thanksgiving. It's by Sharon Olds, and it is actually from her book Strike Sparks, Selected Poems 1980 to 2002. If you go into the description below, there is a link to that on Bookshop, and I highly recommend you to buy it and check it out as much as I would recommend you buy any poetry. No one's getting rich off of poetry, and you just had to hear me kind of like do this little thing in my throat. I apologize for that, but not too much because, hey, we're all human. We've all got this stuff going on. Anyways, First Thanksgiving. When she comes back from college, I will see the skin of her upper arms, cool, matte, glossy. She will hug me, my soupy chest against her breasts. I will smell her hair. She will sleep in this apartment, her sleep like an untamed good object, like a body, like a soul in a body. She came into my life the second great arrival after him, fresh from the other world, which lay from within him, within me. Those nights I fed her to sleep, week after week, the moon rising and setting and waxing, whirling over the months in a slow blur around our planet. Now she doesn't need love like that. She's had it. She will walk in glowing. We will talk. And then when she's fast asleep, I'll exult to have her in that room again, behind that door. As a child, I caught bees by the wings and held them some seconds, looked into their wild faces, listening to them sing, then tossed them back into the air. I remember the moment the arc of my toss swerved and they entered the corrected curve of their departure. I just like that one. Makes me think of my daughter getting older and realizing that things change, and for good. And even if we definitely don't think it's for good, because we as parents are just that way. Hey, you know what? I actually forgot to read this poem earlier. This is why I should stare at my set list, but I didn't. It's right there. I should have read it before the other one, but we'll have it now because we need to have 7 poems, an odd number, if you will. Nice prime number for you. This one is called The Snag in Living. The snag in living is there are a few blessed moments that don't feel like waiting, and few are still decent, loving set of eyes, holding no judgment, and those that do all belong to others. So I stare into a mirror and daydream about a moment when my fist will find its way into that useless face there, and maybe that will be enough to do the job, laughing this imprecise experiment to an end. Closing my eyes, bringing daydreams to a caustic close, the world fades back into the foreground, and I'm struck by how even the worst of it is more beautiful than any void imagined, how the ugliness has its own shade of delirious appeal, and I know that I'm in the right place after all. Once again, it's weird seeing a reflection in my eyes. It's a twinkle. No, it's just a word processor. All right. The last poem of the live stream. Appreciate you tuning in. And if you're watching this later, thank you very much. If you'd like to get a copy of my book, Odd Bits of Broken Things, which, again, it doesn't look like this anymore, but it's the same poems inside. You can get that at the link in the description below, right off of Bookshop. You can also find it digitally on Apple Books. I don't know if it's available in other places yet because I didn't bother to check today. I had to do some work. So you can feel free to search for my name or just Odd Bits of Broken Things at the book purveyor of your choice and see if you find it. But thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. And if you want to follow me at any of the socials down below, you go right ahead and do that too. Last poem in the live stream. This one is called Tonight, Perhaps. Tonight, perhaps I will go crazy and tell you all these things, all the fine and insane thoughts in my mind, wearing cobwebs and speaking in colorful grunts like ants muscling the last piece of bread down the hole ahead of a winter. All the ruinous thoughts and screams echoing forever down the hallways with nothing to hold them back. Perhaps this is the night my things find their way into a duffel bag before finding its way into a trunk, and I light out of this town without ever looking back, driving down the coast, following the road that follows the sea, that follows the rocks, that follows the sand, that follows the surf, rain and radio, drowning out the gulls and the broken people in their neat little houses, driving past everything I know, have know, or want to know. Driving past it all, going more mad as the mile markers turn into blurs, and you're invited too, my love. I don't know if that would qualify as a happy poem, but it's probably about the happiest you're going to get out of the batch that I had to choose from this week. So thank you again for tuning in. Appreciate it. F Subscribe and catch all the live streams coming in the future. I will have a new book of poems coming out in 2023. So if you want to know about that, feel free to describe or subscribe. Subscribe would be much better than describe. Describing my Instagram is not very interesting for anybody concerned, especially for me because I've already seen it. So you can subscribe to Instagram or subscribe here, and you'll get the news. So have a great week, y'all.